solution or my solution to racism, or my attempt or effort at a solution at racism. Start off with Salamu Alaikum, which is the same greeting that is recorded in the New Testament that Jesus said to his disciples, which is peace be unto you, which is the peace, Allah's peace, as-salam, be on you, upon everybody. I wanted to highlight that because that's a prelude to what I wanted to discuss today. Jesus, or Isa alayhi salam, is a key to opening this door of racism, correcting this problem of racism. With the current climate that we are facing in terms of the leadership of the United States of America, the person in place as the leader of the United States, what they may say is the free world, probably the most powerful position in the land in terms of our capacity and ability to fight. With that said, and with at least my declaration that this man is a racist, we have to be knowledgeable and able to combat his racism and be able to go through our life and our everyday lives with racism that we may face. I saw this movie, Spike Lee's movie called Black Klansman. Now we all saw Dave Chappelle's skit. What was that? Clayton Bigsby. He was a blind man who got into the Black Panthers. I'm sorry, I said the Black Panthers. Got into the Klan, and it was a joke. You know, we all laughed about it. But ultimately, this was a true story that this man got into the Ku Klux Klan, a black man, and the movie had several emotions. You know, it was kind of ups and downs. You were laughing, but ultimately, at the end of the movie, I was highly upset. And generally, I try to keep my emotions stable. I try to keep myself balanced. I'm normally not seen as being someone who is overly upset or overly sad about anything, any issues, because I know that this life in this world is a test, right? So everything that we do, everything we experience, everything that we are confronted with, we have to have that in mind, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is in charge, the one that is allowing things to happen, and we have the ability to combat those things. But the president that we have here calling women dogs, black women dogs, unintelligent, calling football players SOBs, saying that Don Lemon is the dumbest person on television, is something that invokes emotion in me. Not because I can't deal with it, but because I feel sometimes us as black people aren't able to combat it in the way that we should. I think the Russians saw us as someone able to exploit, and they used that as division in order to allow this man to get into power. So we have to be more diligent, more knowledgeable, more upfront about confronting racism. I saw a brother who's a columnist. His name is Charles Blow. He was on CNN talking about president, saying that he wrote an article saying Donald Trump is a racist, period, right? Which is a period. I did a talk maybe a year ago, or when he was first elected, highlighting all of his racist activity, including the fact that he had been sued by the United States government for discriminating against black people. This man is a racist. It's not up for debate. That there is possibly a tape that has him saying the N-word would not be the conclusion, maybe to some people, but not in my eyes. This man is a racist. So there's no doubt in my mind that he has said it because he believes it. The only solace I would get is I'll be able to confront other people who would ever suggest that he is not one very easily if I had the tape. But he was talking about, Charles Blow was also saying that he was trying to dispel this notion that racism denotes that you have to hate someone else. He said animus is not required for you to be a racist. All you have to do is believe that you or your group of people is better than other people, or that white people, in this instance, are better able to rule and be in charge than other people. So that doesn't mean you have to dislike black people or dislike any other people in order to believe that your people are better than them, or smarter than them, or wiser than them, or any of those things. So he articulated this in a way that I thought was the best I had seen done, even by anyone that I've seen recently, in that he was explaining that this man is a racist. So if you support him, what is the difference? If he is a racist and you say you're not a racist, but you support him, there is no need to differentiate between you and him, right? You are helping perpetuate a system that is racist, or that a person who is racist, who provides policies that are racist. Whether he does something that you like, he does something that affects me as a black man and me as a Muslim repeatedly, over and over again, not because of anything that I've done, but simply because I'm black, simply because I'm a Muslim, simply because someone is Mexican or Hispanic descent. It is something that is crystal clear, at least in my view. So when he says that all you have to do is believe, whether you're Mexican, black, or white, that white people in charge is better than other people in charge, then you are a racist, right? But then you think, how many white people believe that? How many black people believe that? See, not only is there a superiority complex, sometimes we have an inferiority complex. We think that they are in charge because they should be in charge. So we have to be able to have confidence in ourselves. So we understand that race, period, is a social construct. We are, whether you're white, black, Chinese, Mexican, or whatever, we are 99.99% the same as everyone else. That 0.01001% is our complexion, which makes us different. But ultimately, we are the same. The difference is in our experiences, our environment, and how we interact with other people. Because this is a social construct, though, and because people believe that it is a true thing, we have to deal with it. We can't just say, well, it's something that is made up, it's something that is not real, so we can't deal with it. Obviously, it is real because the beliefs people have consequences. It affects us negatively that people believe you are this race, so you are less than someone who is another race. So if race is a social construct, it's something that is made up, then racism is also a social construct, or something that is not real and something that is made up. But it is based on ignorance and arrogance. So today I wanted to see if we can help combat ignorance and arrogance today. So I like a lot of pop culture, I guess. I watch a lot of movies, watch a lot of television, listen to a lot of music. One of my favorite movies is The Great Debater, right? And you remember, if you've seen that movie, the segment where the sister is saying, the time for justice, the time for equality is always right now, right? I can watch that like 1,000 times. It invokes something in me, and I know it invoked it in her when she did that performance, because it is so true, and it affects us in such a way that we should feel that fire. Like right now, I want justice. Right now, today, I want justice, right? I try to be a person, I joke around with all my friends, like even when I hurt my foot, right? I didn't tell them that I hurt my foot. Because the guys I grew up with, it's like, oh, that's a sign of weakness, you hurt or something, right? So I didn't break my foot, I had a bone broken in my foot. And one of my friends came to my house, I took some ibuprofen to decrease the swelling and put a flip-flop on and walked around like I wasn't hurt, just to pretend to him that I wasn't hurt. So I'm playing like I'm Mr. Tough Guy, but the last couple of years when my son was born, I've been more emotional than I have ever been. There are two songs that I've listened to in the last couple of years that hit me like so hard, and this has to do with race and bigotry. One of them was by this man named Jidenna. He has a song called White Niggas, right? That song in itself is profound, but the song that hit me was the song that came after. It was called Bully of the Earth. And it says, I thought you were the bully of the earth, but you were just a man. And the reason it hit me, just that chorus, was because I think we see this thing as racism and white supremacy. Sometimes it's something that is an insurmountable task that we can't overcome. So we should just live with it and bear with it. But they are just men. If it can be constructed, then it can be destructed. We don't have to live like this. We don't have to accept our fate and accept that someone in a high position is causing us turmoil, making policies that is against us. So just that chorus that you're just a man, that's something that we all should realize, that whoever it is just a man. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our side. We can overcome anything. The other song that touched me really like profoundly was Damian Marley's song. It's called Looks Are Deceiving, right? So I was going on a road trip to Philly, to the Islamic parade in Philly, and the album came out, so I listened to it. I heard the song, it didn't really touch me at all. Then I had some earphones on, I'm working, and I was at a daycare, right? And I'm dropping off paper and soap for this daycare, and I realized what he was saying. Because when it says looks are deceiving, initially I thought it was talking about like a book, don't judge a book by its cover. But what he is talking about is his conversation or discussion with an angel. And the angel is saying to him, so he is saying, this situation that we are in seems helpless. It seems hopeless. And the angel is saying to him, looks are deceiving you. You are winning, right? It reminds me of Zaki. The song that Zaki made, my favorite song he ever made, was called Bleed. When he says, this is only the beginning. The Lord will never lie. The righteous are winning. Like, we know that we are the Muflaheen. We are the Muflihun. I can't even say it now. How you say it? Muflihun. We are the successful, right? We will succeed, ultimately. But I want to succeed here, right, on this earth. So when he's talking in this song, when Damian Marley is talking in this song, he's saying, God hears our prayers each day regardless of our faith, and our good deeds are never wasted. It reminds me of our religion, of our deen, that ultimately, no matter what good you do, you will be rewarded for it. But he's also saying, your existence is a must, everything has a purpose, right? Another instance, he says, he talks about people no longer having love for the laws of God anymore. And he talks about people burning in hell. And he says, there's a secret that basically we will not be burning in hell. For what we have endured, I think, this is my opinion, any slave that endured from slavery until freedom is going into paradise. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, the most compassionate, the most forgiving, then ultimately what they experienced on this earth was hellfire, was hell. So they should be granted paradise. To me, they are martyrs. They lived a life of torment, of sacrifice for us to get to where we are today. So there's no one who can convince me that they will not be in paradise regardless of what they believe. So just that song that he's saying that an angel is telling him that looks are deceiving you, you can make it, you can overcome, is what prompts me when I see people enduring this racism, this bigotry every day lying every single day. It hurts my feelings. You know, there's this Muslim rapper named Freeway. He has this song we call "I Cry," right? And he's talking about his grandmother, and he said his grandmother and grandfather. He said one, because he's giving the list of reasons why he cries, and he says, if my grandmother and grandfather grew up on the wrong religion, hope Allah forgive them. Hope Allah forgive us all for sinning, because repentance get the recognition. So again, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful and that he judges people on their actions and on their intentions and the knowledge that they have. But these things make me sad, you know, make me feel desperate. When I heard this song and I was working at a daycare, as I was saying, I was dropping off these boxes, and I was on the truck and I realized what he was saying. I was crying uncontrollably. I mean, this lady was bringing her son into the daycare, right? And she was getting some stuff out of her car, and the little boy came up to the truck, and I was hiding my face, like, because I couldn't stop, and I couldn't stop listening to the song. I played it over and over and over and over again. Like, looks are deceiving you. We will win. We are going to win. So, ultimately, my effort, what I feel the solution is something that the Imam Reed told us maybe a year or two ago, right? And I knew it. I'm sure you all know about this, right? But I didn't think about the impact that it would have. Now, I have friends that are anti-religious. They are specifically anti-Christian. One of them had something up the other day saying you can't be woke and a Christian. In other words, you can't be conscious. You can't be someone who is knowledgeable and able to take us out of this condition if you're a Christian. So this talk would not only be for Muslims, but for my Christian brothers. I know oftentimes I'm antagonistic towards Christians, but it is out of love for them. As Malcolm X said, I didn't come here to tell you what you want to hear. I came here to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. If you care for someone, if you love someone, you won't let them go down the wrong path. You will attempt at least to try to give them the right guidance. And this is what I'm doing. So I think that it is wrong. It's incorrect to say that you can't be a woke Christian. So the solution, I think, is to give people who are racist, people who are white supremacists, a mental disorder. I mean, give it to them. Make them have it and own it, right? And that mental disorder is something we have known, we talked about previously, cognitive dissonance. Conflicting attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors. If they believe that they are better than black people, white people believe, if they are white people who are racist and they believe that they are better than black people, the solution is to pound it in their brain, the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the truth hurled at falsehood knocks out its brains. And that's what I'm trying to do here. They are Christians. They believe Jesus is the Lord and Savior. We know Jesus is black. Right? How can you be a white supremacist and pray to a black God? How? It shouldn't be an issue for Muslims because we don't see him as God or as the Lord and Savior or as the Son of God. But we have a racial problem as well that we need to combat. But in this society of America, they are primarily Christian, right? And the people who are white supremacists are primarily Christian. We should use that against them. Belief is the most powerful thing anyone can have. If their belief is conflicting with the other belief, we should make them confront it over and over again. So to them, he is the incarnation of God, which means the racist has a huge problem. I've talked about this a couple different times about everybody in the Bible is black, right? So just to kind of recant or to go over some of the issues, particularly with Jesus or Isa alayhi salam, is that Israel right now, from year to year, they change between Israel and the Dutch in South Africa. They have the highest rate of skin cancer. Now, we understand why the Dutch have skin cancer problems, right? They're European in a climate that is in South Africa. The same thing is true of white Jews in Israel. They are not indigenous to that land, so the sun in their skin is testimony to this, right? So Jesus could not be a white man. He could not be European, right? The land of Israel. So I saw this meme, right? And I don't mean to put too much value in memes, but sometimes they make you think. So he had a picture of a map, right? And around it, it had, a small picture of a map. It had pictures of the Northern Africa and the Middle East and other areas. And it says, in each country, it says black people, black people, black people, black people. In Israel, it has white people, and it has a question mark. And underneath it, it has Morgan Freeman saying, explain this. How in the sea of black people is there a people that are white right in the middle of it? Because this is cognitive dissonance. Because this is something that is untrue. It's impossible, it can't be true. I saw this man who was talking about the Middle East, right? And he said, the reason it's called the Middle East is because they're trying to separate from Africa. They're trying to show that this is distinctive from Africa. He said, the reason you know this is because there's no Middle West, right? Right? There is no Middle West. When Africans first came out of Africa, they went into Arabia. They went into the Middle East. All those people were black people, all of them. So even with the issues that we confront in our al-Islam of racism, the father of Arabs was black, right? All of them, the father and mother. Not only to mention, that is in the book of Revelations, it gives a description of him. He has feet of bronze and wool hair. The cognitive dissonance means that you see that and still ignore it, or still say that means something different than what it means. But everything points to the fact that the man was black or brown. Mary and Jesus, Mary and Joseph in the story, traveled to Egypt to hide from the Pharaoh, or hide from the king trying to kill Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, when he is born. So if you are in a land, if you're in a land full of black people and you're the only white people, if we are to assume that Jesus is white, then, and the police come and they say, where's the white family that's around here? Everybody will point over here. But the reason that they were able to hide was because they are the same color as the Egyptians. And the same thing is true with Moses. The same thing is true with Yusuf or Jesus or Joseph, alayhi salam, to both of them, being that his own brothers didn't recognize him when he was amongst the Egyptians, which tells you the Israelites and the Egyptians were the same color. But at any rate, so what we should do first is stop allowing or protesting. We need to protest these fake depictions of Isa alayhi salam. As Muslims, we don't condone any pictures of prophets, period, but especially one for depicting him as something other than what he was. Repeatedly, over and over again, they show pictures. Apostle Paul just came out. Movies of Jesus come out every couple months. All of them are white. Where are the Christians? Where are the Muslims? Where are everybody? Where are black people, period, who are the woke black people saying we need to stop this, we need to protest this? Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are some of my favorite people. I love their conviction, the fire that they have. But they give me pamphlets all the time on white Jesus. And they read the Bible more than anybody, any Christian that I know. We need to confront that. We need to confront this falsehood that is permeating this culture, permeating this society. Now, Christianity is on the decline in Western society. Do you know why that is? Or why do you think that is? My estimation is the people who are knowledgeable, the people who know, know that Jesus was not white. And they will not pray to a black man. So that's what I'm saying, cognitive dissonance is if you tell them, you push it in their face, they got to deal with it one way or the other. So I looked up this simple psychology about this cognitive dissonance. It says that there is something, an inner drive in us for harmony and balance. When there is an inconsistency between our attitudes, our beliefs, and our behavior, something must change to eliminate the dissonance. It must change. That means it has to, it's necessary. If you give somebody the truth and they believe in something false, something has to change. Either they have to accept it or they have to live in denial for the rest of their life. Now, I talk to people rather aggressively sometimes about what I'm saying is the truth, right? And people sometimes call me, say I'm bullying other people. But the point is, when you say something that's false to me, I'm going to say something back to you that's true. And I'm not going to let you walk around saying something false, right? So either you're going to accept what I'm saying is true or you're going to be quiet. And that's what happens. They be quiet all the time. So we have to stop them from doing what they're doing. So this psychology says there are 3 ways to reduce this cognitive dissonance. One of them is to change your beliefs, which is what we want them to do. We want them to stop being racist, right? Ultimately, as Muslims, we want them to stop worshiping Jesus, period, worshiping the creation instead of the creator. But stop being racist is the step that we want to try to take at least today. The second one is acquire new information that outweighs the dissonance, right? What new information could they receive that Jesus is other than black or brown? There is none. There is none. The third one is to reduce the importance of their belief. They believe he's God. You can't reduce that unless you change your belief. So ultimately it goes back to the first thing. Either you accept it or you live in denial. So when you assert to a racist or someone who is white supremacist that Jesus is black, this is what it means to him. Now, I'm in a masjid, musalla, I want to make sure that this is clear. It's not what I'm saying I believe. This is what they believe, so this is what is happening. And while I'm listing this, I want you to think about the stereotypes that they give of black people. That we are lazy, that we are violent, we are sex crazed, we are irresponsible, irrational, ugly, we are mean. This is what would happen in their minds if they understand that Jesus is black. That means God is black. That means the Son of God is black. That means if the Son is black, then the Father is black. It means black is divine. It means black is beautiful because God chose to come down as black. It means a man saved him, a white man who's a racist, and all of humanity. It means a black man did that. Without that black man, he would be condemned to hell. It means that he has, not only is this black man his savior, but he is also his creator. So we understand that Allah creates everything by his word and by his will. In Christianity, they understand that word to be Jesus. So they believe Jesus created everything. So to this white supremacist, a black man created everything, including him and everything that's in the earth. So, the other thing is, the most compassionate person on earth to them is a black man. The greatest man to ever live is a black man. The only sinless man on earth was a black man. This man who never had sex ever, who was a celibate according to them, was a black man. The only person to come back from the dead was a black man. How can you believe that you are better than them if God came down to be just like them? See, the same thing that they did to us. See, not only did they defeat us physically, they defeated us mentally. We have to be able to combat them and do the exact same thing to them. Not only that, the mother of God, astaghfirullah, the mother of God, Mary, was black. All the disciples, all the Israelites were black. Paul, their teacher, was black. On a side note, St. Alexander, Athanasius, and Arius were all black. They all came from Alexandria in Egypt. And these are the people who argued during the Council of Nicaea. So Arius was the one that was exiled. The other two who were considered saints were also black. So the doctrine of Christianity was composed by black people. The day that they determined what day is Easter, the divinity, the Trinity itself, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost came from black people, right? The day there's Christmas, and the books that was canonized were done by black people. So the Bible that they have, they canonized it. The black people said, these books are from God, these other books are not, and they threw them away and burned them. So their entire doctrine is based on something black people gave them. They worship a black man, all the heroes of black men. Moses, Abraham, Ismail, Isaac, all of them were all black people. Now back to this son of a black man means a father is a black man. So I want to make sure I'm saying this clearly, because I don't want to seem as though I am being racist or saying that we are superior to anyone else, particularly because it would actually work negatively in my favor when we're talking about dominant and recessive genes. So with dominant genes, we understand that the more dominant gene can create a recessive gene. It can also create a dominant gene, but a recessive gene can't create the opposite. So in other words, white skin or light skin is recessive. Dark skin is the dominant gene. The reason I mention this is because I have 3 sons, right? One of them, according to everybody, looks like me, even though he's dark skinned, right? The other 2 look exactly like my wife. Her genes are more dominant than mine. Lets me she's superior to me. You understand what I'm saying? So in the same way, because the gene that makes us dark-skinned is the dominant gene, it doesn't mean that we are superior to white people. So I want to make sure that this is clear, that I'm stating this clear. But the fact that the dominant gene is the one that creates the recessive, and the dominant gene means that Adam was black. It means Noah was black. It means, so not only is their God black, their father is black, right? What will a racist think when these things are being said to him? So how can he be better than a black person when your God is black and your father is black? How can you be a better ruler when your God is black and your father is black? How can you be a better lawgiver, a better anything? If a more righteous person, when the most righteous person to you is a black man and your father is a black man. Excuse me. Now, the Quran talks about, in the Quran in Surah 3, Ayah 159, it talks about the likeness of Jesus. It said it's as the likeness of Adam, right? Allah created him from dust, and he said to him, be, and he was. So there was this man who I kind of talk about all the time. His name is Gary Miller. He was, initially was a Christian, he converted to Islam. He was a logician, one who studied logic. And in logic, there are 2 different understandings of words. So there is a meaning of a word and a mentioning of a word. So if you say a car, you could be talking about the automobile outside, or you could be talking about C-A-R, car, right? So he's saying in logic, it's 2 different understandings of this word. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Jesus or Isa alayhi salam is like Adam alayhi salam, we know he means it, that they're alike in how Allah created them. He created them specially and different than he created other people from this word be. But if a logician sees this, he'll be maybe saying, well, maybe the word Jesus and the word Adam, they're supposed to have some similitude. And what does the Quran do? The same amount of times Adam is mentioned in the Quran, Isa alayhi salam's name is mentioned in the Quran, 25 times. Which means not only is the meaning of the word the same, but the mentioning of the word is the same, right? So this means, and the same thing is true when Allah says something is not alike. So if Allah says the believer is different from the disbeliever, the words are in there not the same amount of times. But when he says something is like something else, it's in there the exact same number of times, right? This is just the miracles of the Quran, right? But this also gives us some idea to explore more commonalities between this Adam and Isa alayhi salam. So what I did was I looked in the Quranic dictionary, Adam. And I don't know if any of you have done this before, right? So I'm going to give you the definition of Adam according to the Quranic dictionary. And when I'm doing this, think about Isa alayhi salam, I think about the first Adam, the father of all of us. So this is what our nature is. And if our nature, this Adam was a black or brown person. This is what our nature is. So it says to be brown, this is what Adam means. A human being, a man, a person, an intelligent person. Now you think about this man who's calling us unintelligent, saying we are dumb, we are dogs, and he is the dumb dog, right? So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about us and humanity. But the first person, Adam, this is all he personified, because Allah taught him the names of everything. So he was the most intelligent, right? In terms of how Allah gave the attributes to him of what everything was. So it means a brown man, right? A brave man, mankind, a civilized person, a chief or caliph. So an inheritor of the land, the honest person, a kind and polite person, in possession of different powers, made with different substances, enjoys the comforts of life, and is naturally social. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying about Adam and about all of mankind. So this is the nature, this is the fitrah that we ought to have. Something contrary to what people believe about us. So we need to make sure this is conveyed. So I think using their belief against them, their two different beliefs against them, is the only way, the best way in this time to combat this. I think when a sledgehammer is required for the job, nothing else will do. You gotta hit them with a sledgehammer. You gotta hit them where it hurts to make them have this cognitive dissonance, make them have their brains knocked out. Because when you say that to them, you know, when you get we all been in a fight at least one time in our life, right? After a couple days, you don't feel any more pain. But the pain of the truth is something that lasts forever. When somebody tell you something about yourself and they're conveying something to you that you didn't know or something that you were in denial about, you'll think about it forever until you change it. The same thing is true here. So if we can't necessarily change people's minds, but if we can't let them continue to teach this falsehood to their children and their children's children. I didn't think that I would be enduring what we are enduring today. Even though my mother told me this, right? She said there'll be a time when some white people will choose other white people instead of you, right? And I'm thinking about my friends. I'm like, that's not true. I'm 13 years old, you know? And then it happens. Especially with this movie, it shows like their plan from A to B. I was laughing, right, at David Duke in this movie. I was like, this dude is stupid. He's on the phone with a black man inviting him into the Ku Klux Klan. And 5 minutes later, I was totally pissed off because he won. He did what he wanted to do. That man in the Oval Office, that man in the White House, was his goal. And he was wrong. They were completely wrong. They believe in something that is wrong and false, but they still were winning. What we can do, I mean, we have something that Martin, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Stokely Carmichael was in the movie. I don't know if you all saw it, well, at least a depiction of him. He did a really good job, the guy that played in Straight Outta Compton. But we have something that they don't have. We got access to people just like that, right? We have social media. We have Facebook, we got Instagram, we got Snapchat. We can say, hashtag Jesus is black, hashtag Adam is black, hashtag your God is black, hashtag your father is black right now. Right now. If we can make that trend, right? What would that do to people who have a mindset that says something different than that? Because it's true. They have to combat what is true nonstop. If we just push it in their brain right now, we have access to people who had a larger voice, who had a larger following, were able to do. We can do that ourselves as just laypersons. We can do that right now. And this thing is not just for Christians. As I was saying, we can use that for Muslims, we can use it for Buddhists, we can use it for Hindus, right? Because you know, in India, they have the same problem. All around the world, people of dark skin have this problem. But when we understand and tell them, listen, your father, the father of everybody on earth is black. What you got to say about that? You understand? When we talk about Islam and we say prophets were sent to every people, and if every people were mostly black, then all those prophets that you know of was black, right? But Buddha, you know, Buddha was black. If you see a statue of him with his braids, initially they had statues of him that were black. Then they started making them gold and bronze and all those things. Krishna means black. The Hindu god was black. Zoroastrian, right? So Zoroaster. So he's a prophet in what was Persia, or what is modern day India, or modern day Iran. If you see the movie 300, they have no problem depicting black people in, the Persians, as black people, because they're the enemy. They're bad people, right? Why you can't do that when it's Jesus? You know what I'm saying? They're doing it to us on purpose. They have this god of Egypt, everybody in there white. I don't even know if I was a person who was an actor, I could act in the movie with people when I'm doing that. You know what I'm saying? But this is something that can be used for all people. The father of Arabs, Abraham, was black. His wife was Egyptian. Ishmael was black. He married an Egyptian. All of them were black. So we should never, ever, like the song says, looks are deceiving you. We should always be winning. We have the tools to win. We have vibranium that they're talking about in Wakanda. The truth is the vibranium. We can beat anybody, anywhere. I don't ever go any place and feel inferior, ever. Ever, 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 ever. I don't care how much you know. I know Al-Islam, and I can, whatever you say, it can't beat Al-Islam, ever. So that's how we all have to combat this. It's simple, it's simple. Hashtag, your God is black. Jesus is black. What can they do to that? In their brain, they'll have this confusion forever because it's true. So they got to either change their belief or live in denial. Assalamu alaikum.
It's funny that we had a discussion today, because today I was watching videos all this morning for Imam Muhammad, and I'm a firm believer that Al-Islam is a solution to racism. The first time I ever heard that concept, I was in denial. The first time I heard that concept was from Malcolm X. He believed that Al-Islam was the solution to racism. Mm-hmm. He developed that idea from a proto-Islamic American proto-Islamic movement, the Nation of Islam. He developed that idea from there. And when I was listening to Imam Muhammad's videos this morning, one of his videos I was listening to was called, I think it was called Farad Muhammad, or Mr. Professor Farad, that was the name of the video. And he was essentially trying to explain to the community the significance and the purpose of Farad Muhammad and taking the mysticism out of it. Mm-hmm. And he essentially was explaining how what he had initiated as far as us getting to the point we are to now as being actual Muslims was intended to benefit all of the African American population in America. And it hit me because I often think that we as Muslims have taken the backseat when it comes to race relations in America. So much to the point where we're more concerned with, as Muslims, we're more concerned with what's going on in Palestine than we are what's going on in our own neighborhoods. When the spirit or the influence of Islam in America has a historical relevance in our social, political atmosphere in America. Our image, the people when people that are not Muslims, when they think of Muslims, they think of people essentially that are combating racism. That's what they in their mind. To the point where they'll even make up, jokes and stuff about bean pies and stuff like that, because in their mind they think of someone that is anti-racism, anti-racist politics. Like that's the idea. I think, in my estimation, that Muslims, we have lost as a community in the American platform, have taken a back seat to those issues. And I think the only, in my estimation, and I'm convicted of this, like I have a conviction about this, is that the only solution that to American racial relations lies in the breast and minds of Muslims. I think the only people that can bring about that solution are Muslims. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my conviction. You know what I'm
Listen,
saying?
I believe that 110%, right? I was talking to some people who are not Muslim, right? And sometimes you're reluctant to tell people this because they don't understand Al-Islam and the power of Al-Islam. And the reason that it doesn't work is because Al-Islam is not implemented. But if it's implemented, it will work. The reason I'm talking about Christianity, like you were saying, first, I read something recently that says, you know, our blackness and the Nation of Islam is like people don't make a distinction between the two. You know, Muslims represent blackness. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to be a super black person, you be a Muslim. You know what I'm saying? So that was one thing, but the other thing is that I was trying to empower Christians because I think ultimately, if they acknowledge this, that Jesus is black, they don't want to worship a black man either because they got that inferiority complex. They think they would prefer to worship a white man. I think so. I mean, that's even though they will never admit that. When a black man is up, they're like, they have to say this black man is the greatest black man of all times, the greatest person of all times. They'll do that with a white person though, because he's a ruler of, you know, everybody. He's, you know, he's in charge of all these different things. But when they acknowledge it, because they don't do it themselves. I go to places, I go to people's houses and they got a white Jesus on the refrigerator. I'm like, and they're black. I'm like, what you doing? Like, that makes no sense to me at all. And then they'll tell you that it means nothing. It makes no difference. It absolutely makes a difference. You praying to a white man. You subconsciously believe he's better than you. The same thing I was saying about them, that means God chose to come down as white. That's the reason why we don't believe in this such blasphemy, right? Because whatever he came down to be, that must be better than everything else. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. I'm about to go off on a tangent. Right. Yes, sir.
You know, I see a lot of changes in you in the past couple of years. I just want to say that 2 or 3 things. According to already the believers are successful.
Mm-hmm.
Islam itself means peace. I know Allah has this strategy. I know He has a strategy for this whole thing is going to work itself out. You can't make somebody love you. You can't make somebody love you if they don't. You know, you know me. I got a thing. I do. I'm not racist, but I just grew up in an era where I see them for what they are. I had no surprise whatsoever that Donald Trump was going to be the president. I had a surprise that Barack Obama, enough white people voted for Barack Obama. That flew at me. So when Donald Trump, no, this is no surprise to me. I see it as a losing battle to try to win over these people that, first of all, they hide behind this thing about Christianity. Mm-hmm. They're not really people that are following Christ or anything. They care less about poor people or people that don't look like them. They have no concern for that. I always think that the start of this, you know, especially my heart hurts when I see how we kill each other, young black people. And I always think if the truth was taught in school about history, that we were the people, just like now, not so much, not religion, because you're not going to hit everybody with religion, but if they just taught the truth in school of that Egyptians are Africans, first of all. You know, they try to make it as different than, just like you say, there's no such thing as the Middle East, it was all Africa. This was all black people. If they taught the truth about how everybody went to Africa to try to get knowledge. If white kids knew that and black kids knew that, black kids wouldn't hate themselves. They would know that there was once kings, that we had empires, that we built pyramids. They still can't figure that out. Mm-hmm. And if everybody was taught truth from day one in school, that would solve the problem. That's the way I look at it. As far as especially blacks, we just so down. I mean, how do young kids just want to kill each other like we do? It's hard for me to understand. But to me, it's like an inferiority complex, and it's given to you in school. through what they keep the books as they are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make no changes when they know it's a lie. You know, they know, oh, this is a lie, and they teach you the same old history. George Washington never told a lie. Give me a break. You know, some of the things they build themselves up like, and they build us, and they tear us down. I mean, during slavery, they had people, they would like get scientists to say that we're inferiority, we're this, we're that. They're the ones that are inferior. You know, and okay, so maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, we are original man. We're original creation. They're an offshoot. You know, people aren't people. My dad used to tell me people are people. Look how people act. Nobody's as savage as Caucasian. You know, but
there's a few things.
I'm just saying, you can't reach some people. You're not gonna reach some people.
You have some culpability.
You're not
in this. I
gonna
don't know
reach
how.
some people. That's all I'm saying.
That's one thing I
to
wanted
me,
to mention.
Let it go because already the believers are successful.
But
That's what the law tells us. So the younger generation, maybe we can help them if we would change the way what children would learn. Most black children need to go to charter schools or some kind of schools that will teach them real history. As long as we learn false history, we're going to feel inferior. And they're going to feel superior.
I agree with most of what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm not. Yes, sir. I'm not. The one thing is, I don't want you to think that I'm trying to convince them. I'm saying that I was saying that something must change, though. That means either they accept it or they live in denial, so they can at least be quiet and have that mental disorder. Is what I'm saying. I want to give that to them, right? That's what I'm saying. Whether they accept it or not, I think that they should have this cognitive dissonance. They deserve it. Every prophet gave people cognitive dissonance. Even though they didn't do it intentionally, is what I'm saying. When you give somebody the truth who believes in a lie, they have to either accept it or live in denial. That's what I'm saying, is that if you convey the truth to them, it has to go in their mind, right? And then they have to do something with it. So the other thing is that I agree with you 100% about history. If we teach human history instead of US history or British history, it would alleviate a lot of the problems that we're having. Particularly, it would show that we are the first people, and civilization, mathematics, science, everything good came from Africa. So it would kill this illusion that we are inferior, right? And when we came to Europe, we brought them bathing, we brought them education, we brought them civilization. So in no way would it be bad, or it would work not in our favor to introduce history. But the other thing is that it's not just white people. Chinese people, right? The man who, it was a man who was a geneticist. He was taught in school that Chinese people are special. They're different than other people. They evolved from someone else. He found out that they all came from Africa. That's what I'm talking about with cognitive dissonance. And then he's teaching other Chinese people, we all came from Africa. So he accepted it because it was the truth. Other people, maybe the population in general, don't accept it. Maybe they're still in this cognitive dissonance, but that's what they deserve. That's the punishment they have. See, when someone said you're not punished for your sins, you're punished by them, the sin is they know the truth and don't accept it. So we need to give it to them. That's what I'm saying. We need to. Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You can't give somebody something they don't want. That's all I'm saying. I don't think, listen, they don't want the truth.
But this is what I'm trying to tell you, is that every day, we get advertisements, right? I didn't ask for advertisement for Burger King. I didn't ask for advertisement for Taco Bell or whatever it is. But every day, people are advertising to us a lie, a falsehood, something that's not true. That CNN do it, and the news does it all the time. We should be conveying what is true. I'm not saying that they're gonna, if it's conveyed enough, they have to at least look at it. I'm not saying accept it, but if you throw out a bunch of lies are infinite. You can tell 1,000,000 lies, but there's only one truth. So you have to put the truth out there with all those lies. And then then someone is able to accept it among those people who is actually a person who is willing and able to accept it. Is what I'm saying. Now the school, or changing our curriculum is something that would need legislation. And I think the people miss out on Thurgood Marshall. I saw a documentary on him, and he was talking about Martin Luther King. He was saying he was going about it backwards. He's getting arrested. You should infiltrate the law system and change it in that way. Now you're seeing politicians, Muslims, people of all different nationalities, orientations are getting into politics to try to change the politics. So if you can do it from both fronts, but that is something that takes time. What I'm talking about is something you can do right now. If you hashtag what I'm saying, right, you can do it right now. And then that truth goes out into the world a bunch of times. You know what's, when they say something is trending, even if you don't want to see it, I don't care about what's happening to Kim Kardashian, but I'm forced to look at it. We should force them to look at the truth. If they accept it, that's on them. Yes.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
The Quran, Quran says that no people are better than another except by their, by the righteousness, of course. And what you were talking about first was, he said, the arrogance. And that's the whole thing about racism. It boils down to arrogance, right? So they said, well, yeah, if the Imam Fareed said that just because you're first don't mean you're better. They put that like building a house. You got different people doing different things, but when they all come together, the plumber ain't better than the electrician and whatever, So with both of you guys, I agree with both of you guys. We talk about the history. The history has unfortunately helped to make us what we are. Because when they brought us here, that history was erased from us. Most of it, it was erased. So the religion, the language, all that's gone. So they gave us, just like you were saying with the media, they gave us just what they wanted us to have, And unfortunately, the self-esteem. That's what the man has said Farad, when they came over to give us Islam, the mystic and what that was his, the goal was, we saw how the black people, their self-esteem was down back then, the 1930s or whatever. So that religion to help us as a start, to give us some pride. So that mindset was back in slavery, and it just kept on going, the mindset to say that the inferiority, that we're not as good as the white folks. That slavery, unfortunately, my grandmother and older folks, that's just the way they saw, right? Because it was passed down to them. It's black, it's going to be substandard, this, that, and the other. So, unfortunately, it just kept on going. So, we have to get together and try to teach our history, let them know that, it's good and that we shouldn't, this black on black crime with the younger people, whatever, the self-esteem, that's what the man said, the self-esteem is gone. They are not looking at them as they're looking at them as, I hate to say the word because I don't use it, but as another nigga, right? So that brings that self-esteem. Another young black man is my brother, they looking at him like that. He's just another nigga. The music, all that is pumping it up, So I think you guys are right. The history, we have to get out there and just let them know that where we are, where we came from, and push that. Not the, I'm sorry, let me say this and I'll be done, but not the saying that I'm better. And I can't remember him to say that I'm better because I'm whatever. I'm Muslim, I'm this, I'm that. They said that no race of people, are better. And that and they say, he said, send out an invitation, right? Because if Allah, they said, if Allah wanted everybody to be the same religion, the same color, he could have did that. But he didn't, right? Maybe Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever have you. And the man said that they take different paths, different gates, right? Everybody don't come into the same gate, coming into different gates. We're all, together,
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So,
He had his hand up first. I
go ahead. No, I already spoke. I can go next. Something that he said though is important. There was a spirit. The areas you're talking about. There was a spirit that we had, that we understood, that what we need to do in order to combat what we thought was insurmountable, right? And we understood industry, right? We understood what do we need to do in order to accept ourselves. I'm still a firm believer in that. Like, our only way to combat racism and diabolical white supremacy is to accept ourselves and be our own, right? Establish the Muslim community, the African American Muslim community, probably established the greatest industry in. Man, people do whiting fish. I'm gonna do a fish fry next week. We do fish fries as black people because of what Muslims promoted in the community. We had the largest whiting import into the country at one particular time. Like, understanding those politics, understanding the science of how we galvanize our resources and promote it in our community is our combat to racism. It always has been since Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey's idea of establishing a nation within a nation, or being able to galvanize into the industrial race. Now we've went out of the industrial era and now into the technological area, so we would have to apply those sciences in that way. But that is our solution, is to accept ourselves and be our own, right? And to be ourselves. That has always been the solution. I think we veer, every so often, we veer off that course into thinking that something else will help us. And I still, like I said, I still think that's the solution today. Like, if we know that that the corporatocracy is the influence in the political realm, so these three corporate entities lobby in order to promote gun rights in the community. We know that gun rights is their particular vision of gun rights is what's pouring guns into our community, and we're slaying ourselves with them. Then where are the corporate entities that we have in our support that lobby in order to combat that? Because our voices, our trending topics aren't what's going to combat that machine, right? But at one time as Muslims, we understood the very concept of what I'm talking about, right? We understood that in order for us to break, to get our community in the condition that we wanted it to be in, that we bought the whole block. So we had the bad restaurants, the masjid, fish market, the meat market, and all the way up the block. You understand? We had all the way up the block. Like, and that's the spirit I believe is going to combat racism. Once we gain that spirit again, galvanize that spirit again, that influence is when we will start to see that. And the only people on this soil, in this country, that have that knowledge and have that ability are the African American Muslim community. They don't teach that in the church. We've been trying to get Christians to come together for decades to be able to do that. They got millions and billions upon dollars of resources to be able to do it. But we've never been able to get them to galvanize. The only people that's been able to do that in our time, in your lifetime, in your lifetime, in your lifetime have been Muslims, black Muslims. But it seems like we've lost that spirit. I'm finished.
Okay, all right, before you switch topics, a couple things, was said that, I guess I wanna speak to. One is knowing who you are when you are. And, you just said about this being, technology time. And I got a phone call from somebody that said, "Sister, we need somebody to do some training on how to work your phone." So the majority of us are not the tech savvy folk that you speak of. It is a generational thing. And so I think that we do what we should do where we stand, wherever our strength is, because we don't have to just do one thing, okay? One thing I wanted to say that was on my mind during this presentation is that Allah says that there's no compulsion in religion. So I'm not a firm believer that everybody got to be Muslim. I don't believe that they need to believe what I believe. I am thankful and blessed that I am Muslim, that Allah chose me, that He said, "Hey, little girl," and I was like, yes, right? So I'm not that I'm not concerned. I'm not so concerned that folk don't hear and adhere to Islam. I would rather it be that they connect with me on being truthful, honest, and doing the right thing. I'm okay with that. So, you know, the whole premise of can't you see this and understand and jump on board, I'm like, sorry that you can't. But it doesn't make it a bad thing for you. And I'm not so sure, the conversation that the brother just gave, I'm not so sure either I misunderstood it or I'm not so sure I agree. Because Christians is getting some stuff done. Whether it is the whole premise of the mega church, right? Now that's some money. They moving some stuff. So they do understand the economics of being in position to make things happen. I believe also that foreign Muslims understand it. We broke our backs, those that, and I'm not even one of them. I'm going to say folk that are older than me, who've been Muslim longer than me, broke their backs to be able to be accepted in this country. Folk came along, saw that, stepped on our backs, and are achieving things that are astronomical, that are simply astronomical. Foreign Muslims get it done. If you could be someplace other than right here, then you would see it. You know, we can't allow our surroundings here to define what our Islam is. And I haven't been like in a whole lot of places, but I have been in Northern Virginia, like this past year, at least 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and I'm looking at the development. Everybody up there is Muslim. Everybody is Muslim. All the establishments is Muslim. You go in a restaurant, you don't have to worry about what you're ordering because it's halal. Every store, not just food stores, your clothes stores, the darn 7-Eleven, they're all Muslim. Right? So I don't think that it's just us. I think that we know what we need to do is doing it. That's the problem.
One thing I would say about that, was foreign Muslims, many of them get their wealth on our backs.
That's what I said. Absolutely. We did the hard work.
No, I
They
mean,
acknowledged the opportunity and came over and stepped. They didn't have to put the work in. They didn't have to say, you know, fight the fight. They came over as Muslims. Oh, here's the country. Oh, Muslims is all right. And then they moved on.
no, I mean, even now,
Yeah.
the convenience stores that they have in our communities is destroying us.
Yeah.
They are not healthy. They don't have any health. They have food that we can't consume as Muslims, that they can't consume as Muslims, and they don't.
E-Man gave a clip on Friday, he talked
Friday,
about it.
that's what he talked about.
He talked about them selling cigarettes and
These are
alcohol.
the same Muslims, when I go to Jumu'ah and other communities, they are in there giving Jumu'ah. I'm sure they're giving zakat, but they're giving the zakat, that's our money. What I'm saying is,
Absolutely.
they should, if there's a community that is oppressed, you shouldn't capitalize on that oppression. What they should have done is teach us al-Islam. Right? Now, I want to make sure it's clear. I'm not saying that everybody should be Muslim. Well, wait a minute. I'm not saying that. I think they should be Muslims. I'm not saying they're going to be Muslims.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm going to convince everybody that is Muslims.
Oh,
But I can tell them the truth, and then they got to accept it one way or another. That's still up to them and up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Right. Exactly.
But I also wanted to mention that the last sermon that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said was, you're not better because you're black or white, you're Arab or non-Arab.
Right.
Your righteous deeds is what makes you righteous in the sight of Allah, what makes you good in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His judgment is on your righteousness and your forbidding what is evil. He is the one who says, you are the best of people. I didn't say this. But because you enjoy what is right and you forbid what is wrong, you are the best of creation, is what he says.
Right.
So, whomever that is, whatever your race is, if you enjoy what is right and you forbid what is wrong and you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that also does not necessarily say you are Muslim. But if you believe in Allah and you are righteous and you forbid what is wrong, then you are the best of creation.
Right.
This could be any race, is what I'm saying. But this social construct is what is causing people to be of this race who behave in a certain way,
Exactly.
and this race who behave in another way. We also have to remember that this arrogance that I was speaking of started with Shaitan. We said, because we were created first, that doesn't mean we're better than everybody else. Shaitan said, I'm created from smokeless fire. I was created before him. I'm better than him. I'm not bound down to him. So we also have to realize the chronology of when you were born or when you were created doesn't mean that you are better than someone else. The difference.
Last thing, and I'm gonna let her go. As far as I was gonna say militant move, right?
Mhm.
I'm down for going to the darn 7-Elevens and saying, excuse me, sound like what you doing? And to inform them, because I think that they need the education that as Muslims, we know what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And as African Americans, I'm not feeling you coming into the African American community and capitalizing, because the Imam said Friday, and keeping us drunk. You're putting the stuff in your stores to keep us drunk. So it don't matter how many times you tell them the truth, that intoxicant is there that's blocking everything that you're saying, right? So if we want to go in and we want to heighten up, and we want to get people right, let's start with our own, because see, we come and talk about Muslims, and then they say, well, your Muslim brother down there selling lottery tickets, your Muslim brother down there selling alcohol.
Yeah.
That's where our fight is, on two fronts. Because you're Muslim, and because you're taking the money in out of the African American community, and you're keeping them drunk. Okay, now I'm done.
That's what I was alluding to.
I'm sorry, I missed that part.
No, I'm saying that the fight, so we're talking about American society, but I'm saying this also, cognitive dissonance works against Muslims. So I tell people who are not Muslims are supposed to do this. They deal with businesses. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the most honest person, particularly in business. And that is how Africans became Muslims, dealing with them in business. So when they do something that is immoral, I tell the person who is non-Muslim who's dealing with them, this is how they're supposed to act. This is what they're supposed to do. Confront him on it and see what he says. Again, this cognitive dissonance, it doesn't just work with one person, it works with whomever. If you believe or doing something that is false, or doing something that is wrong, and you have to present them with what is true. And that's what I'm saying, whomever the person is. That's what I was also saying when I was saying Abraham and Ishmael were black, right? The people that you love were black. So why would you give other people who are black poison, give them alcohol? I mean, you go to these tiny giants, or 7-Eleven at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you see black people in line buying alcohol and lottery tickets. And the brother was talking about us killing each other. That's what I'm talking about. We don't value ourselves. We don't understand that Allah created each and every single one of us on purpose and with a purpose. So when they understand that, that's what I'm talking about, giving people what is true. If we don't say anything, they don't know it. Right. You got to give it to them. You got to keep saying it. I don't care what you got to say it repeatedly. And if they don't listen to it, you tell somebody else. Because they're going to continue to kill themselves, devalue themselves, feel immoral, feel inferior if we don't give them something to make them feel that they're better than what they are.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I know you had something to say for a long time, huh?
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, I wanted to just speak on when you were talking about Israel and how now these Europeans are occupying this territory as if it's theirs. My friend, we were just talking about this last night, so it was really, really fresh and relevant. And I appreciate it. I still want to.
Well,
but my friend is Ethiopian. Her father is Ethiopian. Her mother is black. And in 2015, September 2015, she had gotten a DNA test and got her results back, and she was 30% Middle Eastern. And she has been trying to figure this out this whole time, struggling with it, or seeing Middle Eastern people and say, oh, I got my DNA test, and I'm you. And they're like, no, you're not. And so now, just recently, she had her father get a DNA test, too. She was 30% Middle Eastern. He's 49% Middle Eastern. As a straight Ethiopian man, right? And so she's been doing research, and she just found this book about the Kemet people, which is her father's tribe, and this myth that they traveled to Ethiopia from current day Palestine. But it's not a myth. That's where they came from. Like, they were the original inheritors of that land, and they moved to Ethiopia but these were the original black people who lived in the Middle East.
Uh-huh.
And that's why now that they're getting their DNA results, they're Middle Eastern. Well, they're the black people who inherited this land originally. And so now she's going through this journey of self-discovery, and she's like, well, now I need to figure out what our original religion was, because it definitely isn't Christianity. And a lot of Ethiopians are like strong Orthodox Christians, but you know, there's a few who are Jews, but she's like going through this self-discovery, so it's just, you know, really fresh when you said it, because we were just having this discussion last night about her going through this and trying to find out who she is, where her father's people are from, and all of this stuff, and, you know.
I thought you were going to go somewhere different with that. You know, the Sahaba first went to Ethiopia and they gained asylum there. So I thought you was going to say something about that. But I did the ancestry. I'm going to do this African ancestry as well so I can kind of narrow it down further. Because I just think I'm from Mali. I don't know. It said Mali, but I think my tribe. I'm going with that until I find any other information.
Nigeria.
Right? He has something to say, and then I get you.
Oh, I was just gonna make like a little comment about the whole like Middle Eastern people and like the shop selling stuff thing. It wasn't really like anything profound. I was just gonna say like I feel like a lot of them do that because they think like kind of like how the Jewish people think like, oh, we're selling it to the kuffar, they're not Muslim so they can have it or whatever, and we're not getting any sin. When really like I think there's like a hadith that says something like, if you enable someone to do a sin, you get that sin too. And also, if you're making money doing something wrong, then you're not gonna get. Then whatever you do with that money, Allah's not gonna give you any hasanat for it. Like if you, you sell like drugs or like sell even like alcohol or lottery tickets, all that kind of stuff. That if you pay it in zakat, you don't get that. You don't get the blessing of giving it to zakat. Or if you use it for like your family, you don't give the blessing for using that money for your family or something like that. So I thought that was something to think about. And probably something that they should probably know, because I mean, that's scary to me. I'd be scared to think like, I got all this money from doing something wrong, but like I'm trying to use it for something good, but Allah doesn't give me the blessing for doing it, and it doesn't count as a good deed.
But they know. They know or they should know. Like,
They know.
In the Bible, it says something different. You can treat people differently. Non-Jews, you can treat them differently. It doesn't say that in the Quran. It doesn't say, well, you can give them bad stuff because you don't do it. They know that what they're doing is wrong, or they should know. So we should be able to confront them with that.
They should know.
Mhm.
We seem to think that they know as much about this religion because they come from the Middle East, but believe me, they don't know as much what they should know. They don't study it. They just grew up and they call themselves Muslim. So to say that they should know, they should, but don't mean that they do.
They don't mean they do.
Yeah, they don't know. None of them don't know the deen as well as we know the deen.
But they know selling that alcohol ain't right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to be a Muslim to know you're doing something wrong.
I'm not saying all of them, but you know the guy that was down the street from us. What did he say? I'm ashamed. I don't even want my mom.
You know what? As a brother, you said.
Can I finish?
Okay.
He didn't want his mom to come over here to see what it was that he was doing. And now it did get to him.
I just want to say, I ran into him too, and he's working actually at a junkyard. I couldn't believe what he was doing. But he told me, just because me and myself would come in there, give him the greetings, and I talked to him about the deen, and he just couldn't do it anymore. It bothered him. And I said, the fact that it bothers you is good, brother. You know that, right? And so he finally gave it up, and alhamdulillah.
Jenny has something to say.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I want to say, but they said it, that's what the imam said, that a lot of times in America, when they hear the word Muslim, automatically they think of somebody of Middle Eastern descent or somebody with the Nation of Islam, So Saudi Arabia. The imam said it meant land of the blacks.
Saudi.
Yeah,
Saudi.
Right. Saudi, that's right. Yes, sir. Land of the blacks. And then about the people selling the alcohol, the Muslim, Middle Easterners, they're selling the alcohol, and the thing is they're coming in our community to do it. But they ain't staying. right? They come in our community and set up shop. When the shop closed, they going
Go
out.
somewhere else, yeah.
Right, yeah, they're going out, back to their, whatever, their good place. But then the community is still suffering. The alcohol, the crime, the whole 9 yards. They'll come in here all the time, sell their stuff, and pretend that they like us. Yeah, how you doing, my brother? They don't care nothing about us, you know? Take their stuff and leave, you know, but we're supporting it, you know? So I just wanted to share that.
What Brother Hanif and Sister Ruth was alluding to is that we can't take for granted that they understand that the dean. There are people, in fact, the imam, I don't want to say from since we're recording it, just maybe 10, 12 years ago, he's been a Muslim his entire life. He was you might want to call them, I ain't gonna say him, other people from other places. This one person who came in who helped in our class, he's been a Muslim his entire life. He became a conscious Muslim about 5 years ago. He realized, oh, this is actually true. I'm not just praying in this direction just because my family been doing it. Actually, this is the right thing to do. So, and he is rediscovering Islam. You know what I mean? The same is true of many people. It's just like Christianity. Now, you know Christians who, they will tell you they're Christian, but they don't know anything about Christianity because they just been growing up in the church. The same thing is true of Muslims. If you don't study and know anything, you can't just assume that somebody they've been in a Muslim country so they know what's going on. I think I've conveyed this story to you when I was a kid. I asked this brother who asked me particularly, he said, can I help you with anything in this deen? And I asked him a question that was simple. I asked him about an angel talking to the prophet Zechariah. He said, I only know an angel talking to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Immediately, I stopped talking to him. And, I mean, I was a kid. I just like every prophet talked to an angel. So, and he asked me to help me. You know, and so, and because I don't know, he looked at me and assumed he wanted to teach me something. I mean, that happens all the time too. People oftentimes want to teach African American Muslims something. That's something we need, like he was talking about with business, we need to do the same thing with our religion. If you learn your religion, nobody can teach you anything. If I ask you if I need to know, okay? If I didn't ask you, I already know.
It's a Jordanian I used to go to help him learn some surahs. He's a pharmacist in Philadelphia. And he asked me where I went to the masjid. He started coming out to Masjid Allah in Philadelphia. And into this about a year. And he told me, he said, I'm going back to Jordan, me and my sons. He says, I've actually come over here and I want to be a better Muslim, but I can't do it here. He said, I don't know how you're going to do it. But he said, but I'm taking my sons and I'm going back to Jordan. He said, but he came over here. Somebody said they come over here, they see what's right. They used to call it, they come over here as Muhammad, they call themselves Mo. Right. But now they're able to do it. They're able to do it now because of what we've done.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yep. What little bit that we know and we expound upon, if you work with what you know, I know the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you know one fact, then give it. Now this is what I'm talking about here. We know a whole bunch of facts. We need to give them all. The Prophet said give one. So just the fact that we know what we know and we're able to work on that and capitalize on that, Allah will reward us with more and more. That is our inheritance, is to gain knowledge. So if what we know, this small piece we know, we implement it, Allah will bless us tremendously.
And it ain't know what little bit we know, because for Wafdi Muhammad, we have imams that are so, man, we have imams, if you go on, some of you hear kubbas from different places. Imam Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with his soul and grant in paradise, he gave us so much, his insight. And these brothers is just, they're astounding, man. You know, what we got. So what we have, you know, not necessarily me, but what we have as a people, the knowledge that some of these brothers have.
Like me and Sister Nisa, who went to, where she go to Syria, right? And she went to Syria with the knowledge from this deen, or from this community.
Right.
And look where she's doing now, and how much she's able to expound on that. You know, it's definitely a blessing.
Yes, it is.
It's also liberating, you know, when you realize that you can learn it on your own.
Right.
And I think that's the major legacy that I get from Imam Muhammad, is that you don't need someone else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you need them. I mean, you don't need them. They can help you.
You
But
just
if
need
you
to design.
exactly.
Another thing I'm saying to somebody, I do want to say, It ain't like you were smart enough to pick this deen either.
Mhm.
Don't ever think that. Allah wanted you to be Muslim, and you was Muslim from the time you was born. You just didn't come into it yet.
Mhm.
It's just like sometimes we get maybe a big head thinking, well, you know, I'm Muslim. And listen, I don't want everybody to think I'm racist neither. I just have a thing about white folks, but I'm not a racist. I have some bad experiences maybe, but it's just what I grew up in. I'd rather be with my own people, man. I'm in love with my people, that's all. And I've been double crossed, and I see them still how they operate. So I'd rather just be with my people. I have a few Caucasians that have tried and true. In other words, they've been tried. They was tried.
Uh-huh.
I seen what they was about, you know. But anyhow, I don't know what I'm saying now, but this is a blessing. This Islam is a blessing from Allah.
So when you were saying like you want to be with your people, me and my wife talked about this. Like when I retire or wherever, it's gonna be in Africa. I want to be with African people. I want to be around people who look like me, who felt the things that I felt. Also, you know, the Arabic teacher was talking about when she was teaching in Sudan. She was teaching there for some years, and she didn't experience. She didn't realize that she had this burden of racism taken off of her, and she came back to the States and rediscovered it. I've seen people who are, this one brother says from Nigeria. He was born and raised in Nigeria. He came to America when he was 15 because he had read about racism. He just never experienced it. He came to America and found out, oh, this is what racism is. This is what they've been talking about. So that's what I'm saying when I was initially talking about these looks are deceiving you and about the pain of what we endure every day. We don't even realize it. We're being judged. We're feeling judgment. People may not be giving me a job or giving me an opportunity because of my name or because of my color. I gotta go through this every day seeing whether this person thinks he's better than me because he looks different than me. It's just a stigma that we should not have to face. So I'm saying we have to do something to combat it. Let them feel that uncomfort or that discomfort that we feel.
And that's why I think when I started off, I wanted to say that already the believers are successful, what the Quran says, meaning that you take away some of the anxiety that we feel sometimes through the news.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I know you can like watch the news and really get frustrated, angry, upset. So that's why I try not to do that. I just try to work on myself. Step away from the news, work on and trust what Allah has said, that we're already successful. You know, and not to say that to help with everybody, I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just saying, I got problems of my own I'm working on. Y'all need to work on your problems, but free yourself and your family.
I get you.
You know,
Definitely
my
feel
loved
that.
ones, I try to get them off. Listen, don't worry so much about goes on right there. Just make yourself better. Just work on yourself constantly. That's it. We can't straighten up the whole world, but we're going to do better by around our family if we just do better ourselves. You know, so this is beautiful.
Beautiful. Anybody? Brother Nadas, I know you came in late. You got anything? I know you got some words of wisdom for
Oh,
us.
he always does. Alhamdulillah.
I got a little something here.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say, the so-called scholars and whatnot, they don't have anything on a true believer. You know, the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him, he was illiterate, but he chose him because of his character, his heart. If you keep your heart pure, which means that you don't have any desire to do wrong, Allah will guide you. You don't need anyone to take and teach you anything but Allah. We ask for Allah's guidance in the Quran. Read it every day, contemplate upon it, try to read the signs, and Allah will bless you.
Alhamdulillah. Ain't nothing but the truth. Assalamu alaikum.